Hey there everybody, it's Nick, and I wanted to share my thoughts and opinions on the latest Ninja Turtle game, Shredder's Revenge. We're going to be doing things a little bit differently today. I'm just going to be playing some gameplay behind the audio. We're not going to be doing a lot of editing, not even going to be bothering with the script, and I do apologize. I really like putting that stuff together for you guys, but the fact of the matter is I've just run out of time to put something together before I hit the road for too many games. And I also have a couple of other projects that have to come out sooner rather than later. So we're gonna do this for now, and down the road we'll do something a bit more comprehensive. For now though, while the game is still fresh, I wanted to tell all of you, you need to go play it. I don't care if you're an old school fan of the Turtles or you've never cared about this property before, it is worth your time. I promise you. This has finally recaptured the magic of those old school Ninja Turtle arcade games. Just simple beat 'em ups where you go from left to right, punching baddies in the face until you get to a boss, you beat the boss, then you do that 15 more times. And yes, it is better than the beloved Turtles in Time, which shouldn't have been that hard to do. I mean, it is just a side-scrolling brawler. These are games that were designed to be mindless button mashers that eat up a bunch of your quarters, but strangely, they've never managed to recapture that magic in any future game where they reattempted this. And that's partially because they didn't have that arcade setting to fall back on, but the rest of it is, yeah, mostly just bland, boring, inoffensive games. That is except for that 2007 TMNT GBA game that tied in with the movie, the one that was way better than the console counterparts. We've talked about it on the channel before. And as I spoke about in that video, folks who worked on that game also worked on the later Scott Pilgrim vs. the World game, which we have also covered on this channel. And now, a lot of those people, now at Tribute Games, have developed Shredder's Revenge. And if you watched my videos on Scott Pilgrim or that TMNT game, then you know that this is my dream project. I can't believe this happened. You could not have asked for a more perfect developer, and somehow they blew my own expectations out of the water. They've taken everything they've learned from their previous titles, and they've applied it to this, and they have rekindled my love for not only the old show or the old games, but Turtlemania in general. And that's important for me because a big problem I've had with any of the depictions of the 87 Turtles ever since that show's ended is just how weak and wimpy they are. They did this in the 2012 show, and they did it in the 2003 show, or at least Turtles Forever, the movie finale of that series. There were great moments in both of those crossovers, and yes, I think it's more than fair to make some jokes when you compare the tones of those radically different versions of the Turtles, but at the same time, they just felt like shadows of who they were, and my boys never cried in the face of danger. That was just ridiculous. You see, Turtlemania wasn't just the show. It was silly, it was goofy, but it was also that opening theme, which just went so stupidly hard, and the animation was incredible. While most of the show didn't look like that opening animation, the first season did. That was done by Toei. And at least in the first set of episodes, they did manage to mix in that goofy, charming humor with some more badass ninja action. They fought giant robots and escaped flooding buildings and ate weird pizza in between all of it. And that is the kind of energy that the Konami games managed to capture. We got so many cool pieces of art based off the old comic and the cartoon all mixed together, and the toy line had its own unique style, which was a little more grimy and dirty compared to the cartoon itself. There's just a lot of varieties of the Turtles, despite there being only one cartoon on at the time, and that is what this game has managed to capture. It shows you what it was like to be a fan of this franchise in the early 90s. It helps you better understand why an entire generation fell in love with these characters. The references are all on point, some are subtle, some are in your face, but they're all fantastic. The humor is hilarious. I love all the extra animations that they have the foot soldiers doing. The art direction is on point. It feels like an early 90s Turtles property while still being its own unique thing. Every character animates differently from each other, and they all look great. Even April, I know some people are mad that she's not showing as much cleavage as she did in one of the older games, but she still has cake for days, so don't you worry. And I mean, either way, that girl probably has salmonella. And the music, oh my god, they managed to beat out that classic music. And they did that because they had T-Lopes of Sonic Mania here. You know you have something special when the weakest song on your soundtrack is the remade Ninja Turtle theme. Every track here is a certified COWABANGER. So yes, it's pretty and it sounds good, and it's got a lot of loving references, even one to Simpsons, at least the Simpsons arcade game. I kind of feel like that's tribute saying, hey, let us work on other properties. We will single-handedly bring back the beat-em-up genre. Bless them. But yeah, all of that said, none of it would matter if the gameplay itself sucked. But if you can't tell by now, I obviously loved it. Gameplay is all about that combat, and it's very straightforward. You hit one button to pull off a very easy combo. You can hold it down for a charge attack, which is great against enemies with shields. You gotta jump. You have a secondary jump too, and it's not great, I will admit that. You don't really need it. This isn't a platformer, but there were some spots in boss fights where I really wish that double jump would have been a little bit more responsive. But yeah, you can combine your jump with your attack for some aerial maneuvers. They have that dive kickback, but they also have added this incredibly convenient upward attack that'll just hit anything right above you if you hit jump and attack at the same time. I don't believe that was in the arcade games. Maybe it was in the console games. It's been a while since I've touched those, but as far as I remember, I don't think they had them because it was always a bit of a pain to take down aerial enemies. That move, mixed in with the others, solves that, and I'm so incredibly thankful. They didn't remove annoying elements, they instead gave you new ways to tackle them. And there's also a roll button, which is nice. You can't block in this game, but you can roll out of the way of attacks and can use it for counters as well. There was another issue, and this was pointed out by Gilly the Kid. He also pointed out the double jump for me now I'm thinking about it. But while you can run, like you can flat out sprint, you can't jump from a sprint. You can't do a running jump. If you hit the jump button while you're running, you will instead roll, which is weird because if you hit the roll button while you're running, you'll instead do flip forwards, whatever direction you're going. So it just seems kind of redundant. Maybe there's a secondary thing there that I'm not aware of, but it just seems kind of needless. Some of the flying enemies move so quickly across the screen that you're just going to naturally be running and trying to jump, and instead you'll just slide across the ground. So yeah, between that and the double jump, those are really the only weak spots I can think of in terms of combat, but when your gameplay solely revolves around the combat, those issues are far more glaring. That said, everything else is incredibly satisfying. And before I forget to mention the rest of it, you also have a special attack. In a couple of the brawler games, if you did use a special attack, it would chip away at your life, which sucks. But what they've instead done here, kind of like Rescue Palooza did, is make a separate special bar. And you build that up by beating up on enemies, but if you get hit at all while you're raising up that special bar's power, it'll knock you back down to 0. Thankfully, it doesn't take much to fill up that bar, and even then, if you can get away from combat for a second, you can pull off a taunt, and if you do that uninterrupted, that will just give you a full special bar. So yeah, it's actually surprisingly easy to get special moves in this game. But that's basically it in terms of combat. You can probably get a lot more nuance once you understand what you're doing, but it's very easy to pick up and play. And thankfully, regardless of how you play, you're probably also going to have fun, even if you're playing this by yourself. That's usually an issue for beat 'em up games. But thanks to all that music, beautiful art, background detail, fast, fluid, and fun gameplay, it's pretty enjoyable. And they do have some decent enemy variety as well. Outside of the foot soldiers, you also have Mousers, and also not sure where else I can point this out, but I always found it funny that the Mouser mouths look a lot more like actual turtle beaks than the mouths of the Ninja Turtles. I like this big one that pukes up smaller enemies. I love this animation with its neck, like it's about to puke up some food for its baby birds. Anyway, yeah, other little robots and other things I don't want to talk about since it might be spoilers. Well, okay, I'm going to spoil one of them. They did bring back the pizza monster, which is a deep cut, and I was so excited to see it. And I love that they improved the design. It actually looks like a pizza monster instead of just a yellow xenomorph. It does have an annoying grab attack, but I wonder if it's referencing that weird bite attack that Raph had in the NES version of Tournament Fighters. I don't know. Point is, there's a great variety of enemies and how you deal with them. Some can counter you, some can block you. Some of the bosses you have to throw enemies at the screen like you did in Turtles in Time. Sometimes you have to knock a missile to shake up a shield. They are just little things, but it's enough to keep things varied and demand a little bit of strategy from the player. As much as I love those old arcade games, the fact of the matter is they were pretty cheap cheap with the difficulty. They just wanted my money after all. No matter how well you played, you're likely gonna get hit because there's no wind-up animation for a lot of the attacks from those old bosses. But here they do have some genuine attack patterns that you can follow and learn, and it mixes in nicely with that old school arcade combat. So yeah, an absolute improvement. But of course, as cool as single player is, multiplayer is still an important part of a beat 'em up game. And you can play up to 6 people, which is just nuts. And not only that, you can play local multiplayer, you can play online multiplayer, and you can do a mix of both. And they scale the levels properly, regardless of how many people you have playing. Be it 2, be it 6, it all feels great. That said though, we did run into some massive issues in terms of the online multiplayer. A few of the times we would start a stage and there'd just be no characters on the screen. Wouldn't be consistent for everybody. Sometimes it was just me, other times it was just Gilly, and if this was just a one-off thing, fine, probably wouldn't even mention it. The issue is it happened on multiple sessions on multiple days, and it wasn't just me, so that leads me to believe that that is a more consistent problem for this game than not. And usually I would wave it off saying like, well, there's always going to be hiccups with online when a game goes out to the public, which is true. But I did have issues with online with Scott Pilgrim when that came out again, and from what I understand, they have never really truly fixed all the issues with that online, and that is another side-scrolling sprite-based brawler game. So yeah, it's an unfortunate oversight, and that's a very important aspect of an arcade brawler. So if you're anticipating playing this with multiple friends online, just be wary, you might have some issues. Could just be through Xbox and PC, I don't know. Either way, I really hope they get that fixed soon. But yeah, overall, it's simple, stupid fun, and I had a great time with it. And I was surprised to find out that the arcade mode wasn't the only thing you could do in this game. There's also a story mode, which was pretty cool, but yeah, if I'm honest, it feels a little half-baked. Again, that's not to say I didn't have fun with it. When you started off, there's this adorable world map, which reminded me of Scott Pilgrim, which of course in turn reminded me of Mario games. And it also made me think of the old NES TMNT game with the overworld sections that allowed you to play the party van. And yet you go through the levels as you would in the arcade, except you have the extra step of moving the turtle van to the next spot on the world map and entering it. Then you get cute little cutscenes, which I don't think are any different from what you get in the arcade mode. And yeah, ironically enough, the weakest part of the story mode is the actual story. And I kind of wish they would have done a bit more with that, if for nothing else to help separate this from the arcade mode. It is the first option in the menu after all, especially since they brought back all the old TMNT voice actors, well, the Turtles specifically. And since the Turtle actors are back, that means of course Bebop and Rocksteady are also back, since the gentleman who played Leonardo and Donatello played Rocksteady and Bebop respectively. And yeah, I just wanted to hear more of them, and that would have been a great excuse to have some scenes play out. But all that aside, the main focus of story mode is actually the level up system. You can level up your characters. It only goes about 10 levels, and at first I was a little worried that it was going to play out like Scott Pilgrim. In that game, they did leveling a little weird. Like you could level up standardly just by beating up characters, but it would only really unlock combo moves. I'm not sure if it unlocked anything else, but like your base stats, like your strength and speed and all that, you actually had to buy that. So when you beat up characters, they would drop coins. You collect enough coins, you can use them at shops, and if you know where the secret shop is, you can just get the best equipment after just playing that first level over and over again a handful of times, and then just completely break the game's difficulty. And it's fun when you play it in certain ways, but you bring in somebody who's new to the game, when you've already maxed out every character, you'll have one person barely doing any damage, and you'll have somebody else who's just taking out everybody in one shot. And even in single player, when you revisit old levels, all the enemies are just a joke. In TMNT, they've managed to bring that idea back, but balance it a little bit better. Your leveling up never messes with your base stats, so your speed, your strength, none of that changes. What it instead does is give you a little bit more health on occasion, or it'll give you an extra bar for your special meter, unlock a new special move, or give you an extra life. And for extra incentive, they actually have some cameo characters hidden in each stage, as well as some goofy little trinkets that you can pick up and then later give to said characters on the overworld map, which will in turn give you some more experience points. So yeah, very basic stuff and definitely worth seeking out, but it never messes with the core difficulty of each level. Yeah, the difficulty scales up as you go on in the game, but you can go back to that first level and still have a pretty damn good time without it being too easy. And you can play with veteran players and new players, and you're all going to be basically on the same level. It really was a genius way to mix in those extra RPG elements. But again, I just would have liked a little bit more to flesh out story mode specifically. Like, the cameo characters are never hard to find, the trinkets are never hard to find. It is a side-scrolling brawler. They don't have too many places to hide anything, but honestly, it's a good problem to have. None of this stuff took away from my experience. I liked all of this. I just got a taste of these fun ideas and I wanted more. So if they ever revisit this franchise, I really hope they expand upon those ideas, and who knows, maybe give us some more variety in bosses. I mean, Bebop and Rocksteady took up like 4 different stage boss battles, but they had the OG voice actors back and they were a big part of the show, so I get it. And truth be told, I got all the characters I wanted to see, so I'm fine. Yeah, I guess my biggest problem with the game is I just wanted more of it. I had so much fun with this, I'm going to be replaying the living hell out of it. I'm going to find any excuse to talk about this and the other games on this channel. And yeah, I recommend it to everybody. It's a simple, fun time that's going to help you understand why we love these kind of games and why the Ninja Turtles took over the world for an entire generation of kids. Do I want the other versions of the Turtles to get their own games? Sure, absolutely. But yeah, I'm not going to pretend like I'm not super excited to get a proper celebration of the type of Turtles I grew up with. And it feels like the best way to show everyone else why this series was so fun. It's just got a unique style that was never recaptured, not even by the franchise itself. This is the type of game where a parent who grew up with this stuff could play this with their kid and they're both going to have the same amount of fun. It's a simple premise, it's a well-worn genre, and ultimately it is a simple game. But sometimes that's all you need to make something shine, and this certainly does. I love the hell out of this, and yeah, that's enough rambling from me. Thank you guys for spending some time with me today. I'll get to the Patreon ratings in a proper video. Those are coming very soon. I've got a very specific Sonic video, and I'm really proud of the script, so I hope you guys take a look at that when it comes out. And I also have a very unique speed reading coming very soon. My patrons already know what it is, so yeah. Got to get back to work on that, and I got to get all this stuff done before Origins comes out, because obviously that's going to take up a whole bunch of my time. If you're new here, I apologize for the messy video. I hope you had a good time, and go check out the other videos. They're usually scripted and edited. Alright, that's going to be enough from me. I'll catch you guys next time. Turt, Ninja Warriors!